Anxiety is like a rocking chair. It gives us something to do, but it doesn't get us very far. Dr. Nick joins us this morning with more. I love that. It's a great visual, isn't it?
It's a great quote.
But yet it's
quote.
real.
Anxiety is. Yes, it's very real. And we have to be careful with a quote like that because it can shame people who have anxiety.
Right.
And what we don't want to do is add shame because that makes people more anxious.
Right. Well, it's a cycle.
It's a circle.
But what it does illustrate with the rocking chair is that we spend a lot of time on it, and it may not really be doing anything beneficial in our lives. Other than rocking can be relaxing, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, other than, again, creating what we think might be a safety zone because we almost become accustomed to it. And we think, well, that's just who I am.
There's three kinds of anxiety, though, you tell me about.
Basically, generalized, which is kind of that
everything?
Free-floating.
Okay.
Social anxiety, obviously, any kind of groups or going out or even being in a movie theater can cause it. And then panic, which can come from nowhere and just feels almost like a heart attack. We just have a panic attack, which very often can be related to something in the past, some form of trauma that again might be triggered. But what I find interesting about it, though, Whitney, is that we have to try to understand anxiety and not read too much into it. So
we personalize it.
We personalize
when someone else has it.
When someone else has it, okay. Exactly. And maybe that with someone anxiety may ask, which I think is real, well, who's going to be coming to the party? Who are we meeting? You just invited me to something. Who's going to be there?
Yeah, come to dinner.
And it could be taken as, what's the problem?
Right.
When really it's their social anxiety. They need to know that they're going to be safe.
And I've never thought of that. A couple of people have asked me that before, and I was like, are you just seeing if the other people are important enough for you to show up? That's the way I interpreted it.
And it could very well be anxiety.
I know.
When people don't show up, it may not be that they're being personally attacking. It may be that they really just can't do it, or they can't get out of the house, or they're just in one of those moments when they just are stuck. And again, it's hard to say I can't come because I've got anxiety right now.
They'll give you anxiety.
It's almost easier to say, well, something is going on, or
right.
I can't.
I'm sure I'm sick is a better,
I'm sick.
A safer place for them to go than.
I'm sick. But the other thing, though, about when I think about the sickness is that, really sometimes being ill can cause anxiety. We don't really feel good.
True.
And so we have to take awareness of the physical sensations and what's going on.
Do you know that if you had anxiety, which I don't think you have much of, but if you called me and you said, Whitney, I'm feeling anxious, I'm not going to join you all for dinner tonight. If you told me you were anxious, I would try to fix it. I would say, oh, well, she's great and he's wonderful and they can't wait to see you and these are all the reasons you should come. And that would be wrong. Because I'm not supposed to try to fix somebody's anxiety. Is that true?
I think it would be in most cases.
Okay.
All you would have to say is, Nikki, I'm going to be here. and that...
Stand by me.
You know that I take away all of your anxiety when you're next to me. And I'd have to start laughing. But you know that there is some pushing sometimes from people. But again, it strikes a balance. It just strikes a balance. But the other thing interesting about anxiety is that while we don't want to probe too much in terms of trying to be a therapist to somebody who's got anxiety, sometimes when we ask for, do you know where that might be coming from, we might hit something and say, well, something happened to me yesterday that just threw me into anxiety. May have been what they thought was rejection, or they couldn't get in to see a doctor for the next, say, 3 to 4 weeks, and they'd already called 4. Instances like that, or a fear of losing a job because they were called on the rug.
Sure.
Or called into the office, and so that helps when we can specify what's causing the anxiety.
Okay.
Instead of it just being free floating.
Yes. And so if we're feeling anxious, we need to ask ourselves that too. Where is this coming from?
Yes. And I say this often. I really think part of the problem that we really experience in our culture, more today, I think ever, we're just not as reflective as we need to be. Reflective meaning what might have happened that caused it, or what were the things that went on last week or yesterday. Just a reflective posture.
Okay.
We also learn from that reflective posture, because if we've had some kind of rejection and 2 days later it's no big deal, we've learned something.
Right.
This too shall pass.
Yes.
I let it take over. I let it take over. But the one more thing about it too. Why not, instead of being anxious, hurt? That really hurts. I'm not necessarily, I may be anxious, but what really happened was I really did feel rejected, or I really did feel excluded, or I really did feel that I wasn't listened to, or disappointed, that I've gotten 5 or 6 no's from different doctors, or whatever, or I've sent my application out, to 20 people, or I was saying to you earlier, someone was wanting to get in to see a doctor, and I was always getting a voicemail, and I said, watch me. So I called, got the voicemail, hung the phone up, called, got the voicemail, hung the phone up, called. Guess what happened? Got an answer.
Yeah, got an answer.
Because sometimes we just have to kind of stay persistent.
That's true.
Regardless of whatever anxiety is going on, staying persistent. And if we finally get, I told you it's not going to happen, move on, we move on.
Sure. What I love about that story is I think this person wanted to go see a medical doctor, and it was going to be a 4-week wait. Finally, when you got, and you said, put this person on the waiting list, and they'll be.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And 3 days later.
Yeah. That's another way of again, it's a life skill to help the anxiety. Okay, what can I do next? It's going to be for 4 weeks. Can you put me on at 5 weeks? Going to be put me on a waiting list? And there's a very good chance that somebody's going to drop.
Sure.
And you're going to get in within the next week.
Yeah. Well, you've helped me change my approach to people who are feeling anxious when it comes to any type of situation or social setting that I have to think they may be going through something.
Yes, and it really is okay to say, so what, you're anxious, come anyway. Or do it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. Anxiety is not the end of the world. I've said it many times before, without a little anxiety, we're not going to be very successful. Anxiety pushes us. It's a motivator.
Good point.
Don't you have a little anxiety when you're emceeing something?
I do,
just
you're
a
right.
little.
Yeah, just a little.
I mean, that's what, it gives us a little energy. I want to do it right. I'm not necessarily ready for what's going to come, so I've got to handle what comes.
Yes.
It's a little anxiety.
Yeah, you're right.
We all want to do well, be seen well, and be approved, and achieve and feel good about something.
So we all have some of it.
We all have some of it, yes. We just don't want it to take over our ability to live still a happy life, joyful life.
Good things to think about, Dr. Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney.
Great to
Always
see
good.
you.
Have a great day, everyone.
More Weekends with Whitney after this.